What's up, Pokemon fans? My name is Blaze, and today I want to talk a little bit about something I've not really spoken of since E3, even though the information came out at E3. It's Pokemon Sword and Shield. So today specifically, I wanted to talk about some controversy that came out regarding the Pokemon Sword and Shield Pokedex. Kind of surprised to hear that Pokemon that are available in Sword and Shield will be limited to only those Pokemon that are in the Galar Pokedex. At E3 and the Treehouse event, one of the developers had mentioned that you would not be able to transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Home unless they were in the Galar region Pokedex. That was Masuda who said that in the Treehouse event. So that's a bummer. That's a real bummer, and I don't want to be negative. I don't want to talk poorly about Pokemon because I love Pokemon so much. I've loved it since Red and Blue when they came out in like '97, I think it was. I've loved those games for so long, and I've loved, going through Kanto and Hoenn and Johto and Alola and all the different regions that were available in all the different Pokemon games, meeting new Pokemon, catching new Pokemon, building those Pokemon up to level, whatever it was to beat the Elite Four, and just having those experiences with those, with those digital creatures was just the greatest thing that I could have wanted when I was 15 years old, and I'm much older now. So that amount of time spent playing Pokemon has been priceless and something that I really enjoyed. And recently, the company came out and said that players from around the world would play Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red, or Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, or Pokemon Black and White, or even Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and grow these connections to these characters, these Pokemon, and want to transfer them into the new games, and they provided a way to do that, albeit a little bit complicated, but they've provided a way for that to happen up until Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee did not have any interaction to Pokemon Bank, so you couldn't transfer Pokemon into Ultra Sun or Ultra Moon from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. But Pokemon Home is coming out, and the whole point of Pokemon Home was so that you could have all of your favorite Pokemon creatures in one place, in one central location. That's the whole point of Pokemon Home, at least as it was described at the Pokemon presentation, probably I think 2 weeks before E3, a week before E3, something like that. And that's how Pokemon Home was presented to the public, is that you'll be able to take your creatures, you'll be able to bring them into the new games. And that's awesome. They want to encourage that. Something I've noticed about Pokemon in the last little while, specifically 2 years ago, was this I guess cutting corners kind of a way of developing the games. Pokemon Black and White came out 10 years ago, I think, and they had this whole game that they built from scratch, and it was fun. I liked Pokemon Black and White. And then Pokemon Black and White 2 came out as a sequel to Pokemon Black and White. And it was, for all intents and purposes, a sequel. There was new characters to play as. There was a new storyline. But everything was in the same world. And many of the same Pokemon appeared as did in Black and White. So it was more of an upgrade with a new story than actually a sequel. And that was one of the first times I was ever disappointed in a Pokemon game. I still enjoyed it. I still had a good time. Didn't think much of it, and then moved on into Pokemon. I guess the next one would have been X and Y, I think. Flash forward to a couple years ago when Pokemon Sun and Moon came out, and I enjoyed playing in Alola. I had a great time finding Alola variants of Pokemon, which is one of my favorite new features of those games. The storyline was okay. Got to the end of the game, did some shiny hunting, had a great time playing Pokemon Moon, only to find out that a year later they were coming out with Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And I was like, do I really... is that... Okay, so it's a sequel, right? It's a sequel to Pokemon Sun and Moon. And, of course, it came out. I got it, and I realized it really wasn't much of a sequel, that it was basically just an upgraded version of Pokemon Sun and Moon with the same story, with slight differences, more Pokemon to capture, and a couple of new features and new areas. And I was like, okay. So I spent more money on this game. Kind of a bummer that they really weren't much different than the original games. I never even finished, I never even finished the Pokedex or started doing shiny hunting in those games because I was kind of bummed out about it. And then flash forward to today, where we have Pokemon Sword and Shield in a situation where we're not going to have the ability to transfer all of the Pokemon from the old games into the new game. And I can't help but think that this is due to the fact that we may get upgraded versions of Pokemon Sword and Shield next year. And I will probably be very furious if that is the case. I'll probably lead the charge to stop the Pokemon Company from doing things like this in the future, because if it's going to take you an extra year to program those Pokemon into the game, then take the extra year. Bring us a full, complete game. Because after Pokemon Sun and Moon came out, I enjoyed the games, but after Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon were released, I couldn't help but think that Pokemon Sun and Moon were not complete games, and that Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon were the games they wanted to release, but they had to put something out in the meantime, and Sun and Moon is what we got. So looking at Sword and Shield right now and seeing the fact that we're not going to be able to have all of our favorite Pokemon in the game is kind of like, okay, that's a bummer. First of all, it's a huge bummer, especially when you made this huge deal out of recognizing people wanting to bring their favorite Pokemon into the new generation. I mean, that was the whole point of Pokemon Home. That's what you sold it as. And now Pokemon Sword and Shield are not going to feature some of your favorite Pokemon. It's cringeworthy. It's like, what are you doing? So it's very discerning, and I'm extremely concerned about Pokemon Sword and Shield. And I have to say, if I get wind of Pokemon Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield coming out next year, I'm gonna be super furious. So if this becomes a business practice that the Pokemon Company is wanting to incorporate, it's gonna border on some of the things that EA is doing. It's gonna come dangerously close to that line of, I will not play these games anymore. And I don't want to have to turn my back on Pokemon because I love those games. So I'm just really hoping that Game Freak realizes that if they need more time to make a Pokemon game, that they take more time to make a Pokemon game, and that's fine. You should have all the time you need to make a solid, sound Pokemon game that gives the players a few years of enjoyment before releasing a new version. We had Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee come out last year, and those games were cool. I liked them. I couldn't help but think that they were just kind of placeholder games, though, because they weren't. They also, I felt like something was missing there too. So I felt like there was something that just wasn't quite right about them. But they still were fun to play through and to go through Kanto with better graphics and enhanced music and a different way to catch Pokemon. I didn't like the catching mechanics, but that's a story for another time. But I enjoyed playing the games, and I think if they need another year, I'm all for them taking a year. In fact, in the meantime, just put out Pokemon Snap 2. Like, there are Pokemon games that people want to play and that they want sequels of that they're deliberately ignoring that would be great. I would love to see Pokemon Snap 2 in the meantime while we wait for Pokemon Sword and Shield next year. The downside is they've already announced their release date for Pokemon Sword and Shield. These games are basically done, and they're probably going to come out. There's no reason to delay them now. But I hope this is a lesson to Game Freak that in the future, we want to be able to transfer our Pokemon in. And I think that, for me personally, I'm probably not going to transfer my Pokemon from Pokemon Home to Pokemon Sword and Shield. I know I just contradicted myself, but the truth is that I never really did that in the past. I only just now got to a point where all the Pokemon that I used in Pokemon XD, Pokemon Leaf Green, and Diamond and Pearl, Omega Ruby and Omega Sapphire, that all those Pokemon I finally got transferred into Pokemon Bank. And, you know, I didn't transfer them into Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. I just feel like I didn't need to, and I wasn't really going to go through the trouble of doing that right now. But the option should still be there. And I feel like in Pokemon Sword and Shield, like, one of the things that I think is the most frustrating thing is the national dex. And I don't like the idea of national Pokedexes, only because there's 800 plus Pokemon. There's so many Pokemon that I can't possibly catch them all, working 40 hours a week and also trying to work on videos and doing other stuff. It's not happening. But a regional Pokedex I certainly can complete. That's not a out of reach challenge for me. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to transfer those Pokemon into the game, even if there's no Pokedex entry. I think Black and White was the first game that did that, and I thought that was fine. I was cool with that. You know, I just don't think it's going to be something that that transferring those Pokemon in is something I need to do, because I'm kind of happy playing through the game with the Pokemon that I'm given and all that. But I did kind of want to get a little bit more competitive in Sword and Shield, and I don't know if I'm going to do that now. I'm only going to buy one version of the game this time. I'm not going to buy them both, even though in the past I did. I almost feel like it's better for Nintendo to rethink their Pokemon methods in the future, because I just don't know. I don't know what they're thinking right now. So I think with this new generation of consoles, with the Switch, it's probably a good time to reassess what they're doing and what they want to do. And maybe their release schedule just isn't quite right. You know, maybe they need to take some time. I love the open worlds. The idea that there's no routes anymore, that it's more of like you're in a town, you go outside and there's this open world, and then you go into another town, you go to a different open world. And I think that's really cool. The open worlds remind me a little bit of like Ocarina of Time. So it's not as vast as like, you know, Breath of the Wild or anything, but maybe a Breath of the Wild direction is where they should take Pokemon, and 2 years just wasn't enough time to do that. So I don't know. I'm a little bummed out about the whole Pokedex controversy. I think that is, initially when I saw it, I was like, no, I'm not going to get involved in that. I'm not going to talk about it, because it just seemed like kind of silliness, you know, to be upset about it. And I'm not going to like lead the charge of hey, we want change, we want this to be in the game. If it's in the game, great. If it's not, I'll still play it and enjoy it. Where I draw the line is you know, next year if you release Pokemon Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield, that's where I draw the line. I can't justify that business model of selling a slightly upgraded game with more Pokemon at full price. That's not cool, and that's borderline EA business tactics, and I can't get behind that. So having said all of that, you know, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I haven't read all the interviews. I did read one thing about Pokemon from there was a response from, I think Masuda gave his actual response to what he was wanting to do with Pokemon, and he basically says that it was a difficult decision for them to not include all of the Pokemon or the ability to transfer your Pokemon. You know, I was gonna dig into this a little bit and try to tear it apart, but after reading some more information, I realized that there's no point. Like, we're not gonna be able to transfer Pokemon that are not in the Galar region already into Pokemon Sword and Shield, and it's just such a bummer. So he's responded to the controversy, but at the same time, they're not gonna update the game. But that tells me that if they're not gonna update the game, maybe they're gonna release an updated version later, and I just can't get behind that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. You know, I'm not gonna follow this story all that closely. I am gonna try to put out more information about Pokemon Sword and Shield, because I kind of missed my opportunity when E3 was out. It's like 2 weeks ago. But there's a bunch out there, and I really do want to dig in and you know, talk about more Pokemon Sword and Shield related information. I'm going to play the games. I'm going to stream the games. It's going to be something I enjoy doing. It's a bummer that you can't transfer, but at the same time, just don't push my limits. That's all I'm asking for. Don't make me upset because, you know, Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield are a thing. So anyway, I'm going to sign off, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out and listening to my rambling about Pokemon national dexes and things like that. Leave a comment below, hit like and subscribe. I'll be back with more information, more Animal Crossing related information is coming. The news cycle's been kind of slow on that, so hopefully we'll get back into more interviews or more information coming up soon. But thanks again for watching, guys. I'll catch you on the flippity flip.